Hello and welcome to this, the very final round of GP Sydney before we move into our elimination stages. And that man, Brian Braun-Duin, you've seen him in our feature match area a huge amount this weekend. There are a lot of reasons why. First up, he's 12-2, which is a fantastic record. But on top of that, he is currently leading the race to be the Grand Prix master. And if he gets there, it does mean that he's going to be able to play in the World Championships in Seattle very soon. But before he's able to do so, well, he's got Seth Manfield to worry about. Seth Manfield is the one person that can potentially beat him in this race, and having to play in the final round against Zen Takahashi of New Zealand means that he's in a tough spot here. If he loses, if he misses top 8 and Seth Manfield wins this GP, Seth Manfield locks up yet another different type of qualification for the World Championships, pushing more things down to at large. If Brian Braun-Duin makes top 8, though, we're all locked up. He gets there and is able to say that, yes, he will be at the World Championship. And that's a very big deal to him. He actually said to me at the start of this tournament, this GP is kind of more important to me than the Pro Tour. And that's a crazy statement to hear. I mean, here we see his deck, blue-green emerge. We spoke about it just mere moments ago. He's got a Wicker Witch. He's got that Homunculus in play. Up against Zen Takahashi on blue-red spells and 2 premium blue-red spells creatures here in the Curious Homunculus and that Thermo Alchemist. His spells are going to be easier to cast, and they're going to untap that 0-3 defender that can ping Brian Braun-Duin.
Well, as Zen lines up his blockers, effectively bouncing all the creatures and trading them, so not much in the way of real board development so far. Meanwhile, I can give you some information on what was happening at the top tables. Scott Lipp, Benjamin Stark, Seth Manfield and Eduardo Sedgwick all took an intentional draw, so perhaps not completely locked for the top 8, but they are obviously doing that in the hope that they will make it in with that extra point from the ID. Meanwhile, we have plenty of winning in matches amongst the 36 pointers that we mentioned earlier, and this is one of them. The winner of this match will almost assuredly make it to the top 8. The loser almost certainly will not.
Epiphany at the Drown Yard here being played by Braun-Duin in order to try and just get a bit of velocity going. Cards in the graveyard are completely fine for him. He's going to just sort of try and make sure that he can get everything that he needs going in the early game, because Zen Takahashi's spells deck, it can present quite a lot of damage if something like a Mercurial Geist comes down. Even if he just casts a lot of spells with that Thermo Alchemist, he can present quite a bit of damage. And a couple of lands coming off that Epiphany at the Drown Yard. Braun-Duin now just looking to see what he can get going.
Looks like he did not receive that Enlightened Maniac. Another Homunculus instead. Well, that's just gonna be blocked by the Thermo Alchemist. Doesn't do all that much yet, so BBD not able to develop his board in any real meaningful way so far. Well, that Mercurial Geist, a signpost, gold, uncommon, signifying what the blue-red archetype wants to do. Play spells and exploit them for additional bonuses.
Yeah, so now every spell cast by Zen Takahashi does give the Geist +3 power in addition to tapping Thermo Alchemist. But sleep paralysis on Mercurial Geists will mean that even if they are getting +3 power every time Zen Takahashi casts a spell, well, that power is not really going to be able to be utilized because the Geists themselves are going to be tapped.
And still not much going on yet, but Zen Takahashi has a hand filled with good cards. I believe I saw Lightning Axe along with Fiery Temper there. Always a sweet combination, but Brian Braun-Duin not really playing any creatures worth burning yet.
I mean, in this Emerge archetype, though, it's definitely nice having the likes of Lightning Axe, because that's a burn spell big enough even to be able to deal with many of the larger Emerge creatures that can come out of the blue-green deck. We've seen Brian Braun-Duin using a lot of Emerge over the course of this tournament. Even yesterday, he had Elder Deep Fiend as one of the big power cards in his sealed deck that was able to propel him into day 2. Pour over the pages here coming from Takahashi, and that a nice one, both helping him find extra cards and untapping his lands, letting him cast a lot of spells in a single turn, potentially making that Thermo Alchemist even more of a threat than it is just naturally as a 1 ping per turn sort of effect.
One of the cards that he found was Pyre Hound. Won't come down on this turn, but he has access to it on the next turn. Starts off as a 2-3, but given the amount of spells that Zen Takahashi has in hand, it could end up becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So let's see what BBD has up his sleeve. Any emerge creatures, well, if he wants to, he can put them out on the battlefield. But looks like it's just an attack with the Homunculus and passing the turn. At this point, if you're Zen Takahashi, you have to be wondering, okay, what's going on here? So many lands in play for BBD, he's not doing anything. Maybe there's going to be a flash creature. Maybe he is sitting on some kind of counterspell. We'll see, but this is at least a little suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, something like a Drownyard Behemoth may be coming down here. Sanguinary Mage and great prowess creature, and yes, there is a Drownyard Behemoth. One of the premium emerge cards, simply because it has flash, meaning that if there's a removal spell pointing at your creature, you can sacrifice it in response to emerge. Also, effectively, it means that this big 5/7 kind of has haste. At the point it comes into play, it does have hexproof as well, potentially useful against removal spells, though that hexproof wears off fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's only for a turn. And remember that Zen had all of this firepower in hand, so 7 toughness is a lot, but if Zen so chooses, he can use Lightning Axe and Fiery Temple to take it down on the next turn, while getting 2 additional pings from his Turmoil Alchemist, putting 2 counters on the Pyre Hound, 2 prowess triggers. Just a little masterclass on what this blue-red archetype can provide.
Yeah, basically every creature that Zen Takahashi has in play grants extra abilities to his spells, sort of. And that means that suddenly you've got a much better incentive to play more spells. And another copy of Mercurial Geist. I'm loving this deck from Zen Takahashi. Just, if you're planning on playing red-blue spells, all of the payoff you can see in play right here. And it's just a matter of then making sure that you can strike the balance between these payoff cards and the instants and sorceries that really make them tick.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, BBD not really able to muster an offense. He could have attacked with Drownyard Behemoth, but given that BBD is already down on life total, and there's this Pyre Hound sitting on the other side of the battlefield, it seemed like BBD was a bit scared of just receiving too much damage in exchange if he would attack with the Drownyard Behemoth, preferring to keep it back as a blocker potentially for the Pyre Hound. But perhaps it won't be available for that after the next flurry of lightning damage will have ended.
Yeah, it's kind of a little scary when you see a Thermo Alchemist just being tapped and it's not at the end of turn, because that means there's going to be some spells coming. Lightning Axe, here's a whole bunch of triggers. Now, as an additional cost of the Lightning Axe, you do have to discard some things. Zen Takahashi taps a mountain because he's going to be discarding what looks to be a Fiery Temper. That also targeting the behemoths. So we've got another untap here. Like, lots of triggers going on for all of these creatures.
Yeah. Still an untapped trigger from the Thermo Alchemist. There's not missing a single point of damage. He is remembering every single trigger. Also 2 boosts on the prowess on Sanguinary Mage, which can now profitably attack into the Byway Courier. And, well, BBD had no reasonable answer, no green pump spell to save his Drownyard Behemoth. So far, Zen is super far ahead in this game.
And Takahashi does have more cards in hand and 4 more mana available, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that there could be even more spells this turn. I mean, a swing right now, he's attacking for 4 with Pyre Hound, a further 3 with that Sanguinary Mage, and the Alchemist tapping once more because there's yet another spell coming from Takahashi. He clears the way because this is going to be a big set of attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4 coming from Sanguinary Mage, more coming from the Pyre Hound, and that enough for Brian Braun doing. He says, all right, fine, let's go on to game 2.
Yeah, I have seen enough. Also liked using the Incendiary Flow at the end there on the Byway Courier. It exiles the creature as, well, a byproduct, so that it doesn't even produce a clue for BBD.
Yeah, pretty much textbook stuff there for Takahashi, the New Zealand player who He's just having a fantastic tournament. Obviously, not had to travel as far as an awful lot of the other players who are able to do this. He's on the World Magic Cup team this year, having earned a spot at one of the WMCQs, and that kind of like just a lovely way for players who aren't necessarily as easily able to travel to GPs around the world to get a chance at Premier Play. The World Magic Cup, one of my favourite tournaments, just a huge amount of fun as you see the players coming from all over the world aiming to hit the top spots. Brian Brown doing, he's from a country where getting onto the national team a little bit tougher. There's an awful lot of competition in the USA. Seth Manfield, of course, in great spot to be the US national champion when it comes to that team. Though with the Pro Tour coming up, there are a lot of pro points being thrown around. We will remain to be seen exactly what those teams are going to be.
But one way or another, that's going to be an exciting event later this year in Rotterdam. We still have plenty of exciting events coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks, of course. Next week, don't miss Pro Tour Eldritch Moon here in Sydney in the very same building, starting this very Friday, where the pros get their first crack at drafting, not only drafting Eldritch Moon at the Pro Tour level, but also trying to break standard, seeing if they can find a way to beat Band Company. And a couple weeks later, in the first week of September, there will be the World Championship in Seattle, where the best 24 players of the world will battle it out for, well, the title of World Champion. Perhaps, if Brian Braun-Duin wins this one at least, he will be there for sure. If Brian Braun-Duin loses this one, and Seth Manfield does not win the GP, he will also be able to make it. But, well, there's still this little sweat going on for BBD.
Yeah, it's a very, very close one here for Brian Braun-Duin. You could see him there always thinking, always trying to figure out if there's anything he could have done differently. I mean, to be honest, from what he saw in that first game, it may well just be a matter of him saying, right, what do I need to do in these subsequent games? Because it looked like this red-blue spells deck pretty much had it all.
Speaking of pronunciations, which the chat is currently wondering about, well, if we go by German and Dutch origins, it would be Brian Braun-Duin. But, well, language is a tricky thing. That's not how it works out these days anymore. BBD is a perfectly easy abbreviation.
So these players drawing their opening hands for game 2. I'm guessing that, yeah, Brian on the play there, having lost game 1. And Zen Takahashi just playing a tap land there. All of his mana getting fixed nice and easy. And he's the one with a 2-drop. This time it is Ember Eye Wolf getting stuck in there just for the single point. And that a nice one that early on in the game it can get a point in here, point in there. But if there's spare mana available, there is the opportunity, of course, to pump it just a little bit.
Well, Zen has the choice between keeping mana up for Convolute or just adding the Ingenious Scarp to his battlefield. If he passes the turn here with mana up, it's super suspicious. So he will just have to add something to the battlefield here.
It's certainly not a bad addition. The Ingenious Scarb, if Brian Braun-Duin does not play any kind of a blocker, you know, you can pump it a little bit, quite a lot of damage in. As things stand, of course, that particular Maniac was a little bit more enlightened than most, brought an Eldrazi horror along with it, it knew what was going on all the time, and suddenly Braun-Duin has a great collection of blockers, and it will just be a matter of whether or not Takahashi has some sort of removal. In blue, there are plenty of bounce spells that play off very nicely against tokens. Unfortunately, the Enlightened Maniac itself, a really, really good target for Emerge, and not necessarily a card that Takahashi is going to want to waste a removal spell on.
Mm-hmm. Now, on this turn, it's not so suspicious to pass the turn with mana up. So, Zen trying to keep mana up for, Convolute. And this is going to be huge, as he may be able to counter it of the Horde Swarm.
Yeah, well, the insect's coming into play regardless. That is a cast trigger. So Brian is going to be getting some impact off casting this It of the Horror Swarm, or as we like to just refer to it, It.
Well, pretty sure that Zen wants to be using his counterspell to take out that 4/4 while he has mana available.
Yeah, and the longer he thinks about it, the more he telegraphs that there is some sort of counter magic there, at which point you might as well use it.
And those little 1/1s, well, they don't matter that much yet. Zen has good blockers for them. And on the next turn, perhaps there may be a Mercurial Geist coming down, at least that is a card he has in hand. And, well, as we have seen previously, that can get out of hand quickly. Starts off as 1 power, but then all of a sudden, before you know it, boom, there's a 7 power Geist coming your way.
Yeah, it's kind of the spiritual successor to the likes of something like We Dragonauts that used to get +2 power for every spell you play. +3 power, though, you really don't need that many spells before it is just a massive problem. Sleep paralysis, again the answer for Brian Braun doing. Tapping down the Geists, and they will not be untapping next turn, or indeed any future turns as long as that enchantment stays on them.
Yeah, that's a really important removal spell. Without it, BBD may not be able to get ahead in this game, but just taking out that potentially huge flyer, a very important play for BBD there.
Take inventory, drawing a card for Zen Takahashi. The first take inventory, not especially exciting in most decks, though it does have some additional value in this blue-red spells deck just by triggering prowess and so on.
Yep, now a 3/4 Scarp coming BBD's way. Well, BBD has the option of lining up a triple block to potentially take down the Scarp, but he would trade 3 for 1. Then again, all of these 1/1s are not going to do all that much anyway, so might as well get there. Actually, he only needs to line up the Eldrazi and 1/1/1 if he wants to deal 4 points of damage to the currently 4 toughness Ingenious Scarp. But that's a bit dangerous if Zen Takahashi has one other instant in hand. So lining up an additional point of power just to play around the danger of prowess makes sense here.
Right, I guess the tricky thing is that almost any spell that's triggering prowess is also doing something else of value. So this triple block, not without risk. Any kind of bounce spell against these tokens, particularly effective as they cannot go back to hand. They would simply get exiled if there was the likes of an Unsubstantiate or similar coming out of Zen Takahashi's hand.
Zen has the option of playing Lightning Axe in order to take out the Eldrazi Scion and make sure that his Ingenious Scarp will survive. However, that would mean that he loses a premium removal spell for just, well, a 3/2 creature. He may be holding on to that Lightning Axe for something more valuable later on. And this catalog, now Ingenious Scarp, becomes a 4/5, exactly the reason why BBD lined up the triple block rather than just the double block. So this combat is working out, well, as BBD would have hoped.
Yeah, the catalogue there, it was going to get cast at some point to improve Zen Takahashi's hand. This way around it is able to generate a bit of extra value, dealing with that insect and leaving Brian with a completely empty board but for those 7 lands. Sooner or later he's going to be able to just start casting these emerge cards without needing to worry about emerge costs. In the meantime though, Bloodbriar and Wicker Witch coming along. So Bloodbriar, one of the nice ones with emerge, it just naturally gets bigger every time you sacrifice a permanent.
Also works well with clues, in case you picked up some clue cards from the Shadows over Innistrad booster. Let's see what's in the laboratory. Well, at least there's Delirium, so this draw tree spell now only costs 4 mana. Not bad.
Positively great, and another copy of Mercurial Geists coming off the top. In fact, is that 2 copies of Mercurial Geists in his hand?
Well, I saw at least 1.
If it is, then there could be... Yep, we have 2 more copies of Mercurial Geists confirmed in Zen Takahashi's hand. This is exactly the kind of thing that the blue-red spells deck's wanting to do. The multicolored uncommons, we call them signpost uncommons because they basically tell you exactly what a color combination is looking to achieve. And if you get 3 of them in a deck, then as long as you have the right support, then you're probably doing kind of the right thing in this format.
Yeah, game plan unlocked. Zen Takahashi will just have to stall out, as he is doing currently with the Amber-Eyed Wolf. BBD was not willing to attack into it and offer up some trade, especially when the Amber-Eyed Wolf could be pumped to take down the 2/3 on BBD's side. But meanwhile, Brian Braun is not doing much. Not playing creatures, not playing pump spells, not really interacting with his opponent. Looks like he is drawn into a glut of lands, and without some of the card filtering and card advantage spells that Zen has been playing, such as the Catalog and the Scardy in laboratory. Yeah, BBD is seemingly running out of gas. Maybe there's a like some oh, what's there? Spontaneous mutation, giving currently -2, -0 to the flyer because BBD has 2 cards in his graveyard. That's okay-ish, but well, second Geist, hello in the house.
Yeah, and Mercurial Geist, one of the creatures that can potentially pump through one of those artificial evolutions to still deal some damage, because +3 for every spell, it does add up very quickly, as we've noted already.
Well, BBD could start attacking maybe with the Wicker Witch to at least get something done, or the Bloodbriar. He also has to be careful to leave a blocker behind for the Ember Eye Wolf. Otherwise, well, it just presents a lot of potential damage.
And it looks like Takahashi has plenty of spells in hand for this following turn. We could see some fireworks coming up.
Yeah, there's at least a Lightning Axe. That's always good. Drag under.
Alrighty, so that's the first trigger on all those Mercurial Geists. Draws a card, bounces one of Brian's creatures, and here's some swings. When a creature under Artificial Evolution is still able to attack, yeah, this is a big deal.
Somewhat surprised that Zen chose not to play Drag Under on any of his Geists that are enchanted. For example, on the Geist enchanted with Sleep Paralysis, because BBD will just replay the Wicker Witch on the next turn, whereas Zen could have also gained effectively a free Mercurial Geist, saved it in a way. But looks like Zen is just going for the tempo route, getting in with the Ember Eye Wolf whenever he can.
And big play here for Brian. This is the kind of thing that you want in terms of setup, but a swing and a miss there for Foul Emissary, failing to find a creature. Normally that one, I mean, I know that you've run the numbers on a lot of these things, Frank. That one strikes me as one of the more unlikely outcomes of Foul Emissary. And when you don't find a creature, you really need to hope that you're at least going to emerge with it somehow. Otherwise, that's a very steep rate for a 1-1.
Indeed. It depends a bit on how many creatures you have in your deck, but the odds of missing are around the 5% range. So, yeah, just some bad luck for Brian Braun-Duin there.
And Wicker Witch looking to prey upon one of those Mercurial Geists.
So now Zen has the option of playing Lightning Axe on the Wicker Witch in response to keep his Geists around. However, if he uses his Axe in that way, well, he may not have the Axe for later on to take down some big creature on BBD's side of the battlefield.
Zen just double checking the details of what's going on here, making sure that he makes the right choice with the full information. And it looks like he is going to go for that Lightning Axe. Just discarding a land here, not able to get any madness value off it. And indeed, not really getting any value off the fact that it triggers well with his Thermo-Alchemist or with all of those Mercurial Geists, because he's having to play it at an inopportune moment. But keeping the Mercurial Geists around, a pretty big deal nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, meanwhile, the Thermo-Alchemist is picking for so much damage. We should have kept a running count of how much damage it has done over the course of the game, but it has been a lot so far. And, well, you know, a blue-green deck not really known for its prowess at removal spells. So, wouldn't be surprised if that Thermo-Alchemist stays around for a long, long time.
I would suggest that the length of time that Thermo Alchemist is going to hang around for is directly proportional to how quickly Zen Takahashi ends this game.
Well said. Now the Ember Eye Wolf, that will just run into the Bloodbriar. Mercurial Geist, well, at least attacks for 1. We'll see how many spells Zen has in hand. Is that a Convolute in his hand? The blue card? Bit hard to make out. If it is, well, it's not going to be the best, but oh well.
I mean, even single points do add up, and the Wolf does come in because, given the amount of mana available to Zen Takahashi here, it does kind of force a block from Brian Braun-Duin. And those two trading off. Sanguinary Mage in foil coming down, looking lovely under our lights. 1/3 prowess. I mean, if nothing else, it's just a great 2-drop for this deck, and prowess a very relevant ability when you know that you're playing a lot of spells.
Well, BBD better find some way to deal with both the Mercurial Geist and the Thermo Alchemist, because that 1/1 on his side of the battlefield not really going to do much at the moment.
You see there, head in hands for Brian Bronduin. I mean, this has been a roller coaster ride of an event for him, doing spectacularly well, but he has a whole different set of performance standards to everyone else in the room pretty much, because he is looking to make it all the way to the World Championship. Take inventory, that I believe the second copy,
Yep,
drawing
drawing 2 cards.
2 cards and a million different triggers for Zen Takahashi. And that just the beginning. The Mercurial Geist under Artificial Evolution, yes, it has taken a relatively large hit to its power, but Zen Takahashi doing his best to try and get back from that. Yeah, that one's going to be a big deal. A burn spell that is likely to just go to the face here, I'd imagine.
Yeah, unless BBD has something good in his hand here, this will be the final attack of the match. And if that is the case, it would almost certainly propel Zen Takahashi into the top 8 of this GP. While BBD, well, fortunately for him, will have to be on the outside.
Now, the good news for Brian Bronduin, you know, if you're looking for good news for someone who's just lost their definite win and in, is that prior to coming into this round, he was right at the top of the 36 pointers. If someone is able to sneak in at 36 points, he is pretty much top of the list. But there were a lot of players on 36 points. Certainly no guarantee.
Well, BBD thinking for a while here, so he will have something. Epiphany at the Drown Yard. But it will get countered. No,
there's the handshake.
No bounce spell. That's it.
We do hear some rounds of applause there, and the reason for that being, of course, as a New Zealander, Zen Takahashi has some comparatively local fans. I mean, worth pointing out that Sydney to New Zealand, that's still a good 3 hours of flying away. By European standards, that's, you know, goodness knows how many countries. But Australia, New Zealand, this Oceania region, you know, it's a big place. Zen Takahashi, you can see big smiles on his face. Having a fantastic season, it must be said, on the World Magic Cup team, putting some stuff together here in Sydney, and we get a chance to move across and see a little bit from another match now. Timothy Nolan up against Jacob Wilson. These guys also in great shape. 11-2-1, so they're desperately looking for that extra win. Jacob Wilson already a game up, and his red-black deck, he's got a Mad Prophet in play and already so many cards in the graveyard. Not too many in hand, but he's got Timothy Nolan down to just 8 points of life.
Yeah, also a likely win and in match for both of these players. So close to the top 8, but one match still has to be won.
Graph Rat and another Ember Eye Wolf. The Wolf doing good work for these decks. There's been a lot of talk about how good it is to have decks that are able to do things with cards in the early game, but that also play in the late game. Ember Eye Wolf, it's not the biggest powerhouse in that regard, but at least it has some flexibility.
Yep. Now, as for the current board state, well, Inspiring Captain, it can attack, but it will just trade for the Ember Eye Wolf. There's also a zombie token that can just trade for the Graph Rat. So at this point, Timothy Nolan is definitely behind on the battlefield, as that Mad Prophet from Jacob Wilson improves his draws, gives him a relevant creature, and well, will eventually get him ahead. But the choking restraints means that Timothy is now able to set up a relevant attack. That Inspiring Captain won't be taken down by a potential 3-power creature anymore. Still, Timothy has to play it safe. If he attacks with both creatures, then, well, Timothy is behind on the damage race. He might face a swing back by perhaps even both creatures, so keeping that zombie back makes sense. And there is a card that changes things. Wildenpack Outcast.
4/4 trample on the face of things, that already good. It also has the ability to pump its power at the cost of some toughness, and for 7 mana, which is an amount that Jacob Wilson does have available, he can transform it, and once it's transformed, well, it's a gigantic creature that has straightforward trample, and you can pay 1 colourless mana to pump its power. We've seen it all weekend just doing great things for these red decks.
There is a transfer. It's Kindly Stranger. Looks like Timothy has Delirium, so he will be able to transform it, taking down that Villain Pack Outcast right away.
Yeah, that's
super big swing for Timothy here. Essentially a Shriekmaw style card that he happily put on the battlefield here.
Yeah, not so kindly a stranger anymore. It turns out that there is a witch on the battlefield, and Jacob Wilson does choose to block there. Takes a little bit more damage from the Inspiring Captain, down to 7 life. We got an old-fashioned race on our hands, and while Jacob Wilson has card drawing after a fashion to try and make sure that each top deck he gets is a good one, he is down on the board now.
Oh yeah, now he has a jump block actually, because Timothy has 7 power, threatening a lethal attack that Olivia's Dragoons can't even trade for any of the 3 toughness creatures on Timothy's side of the battlefield, so we'll just have to jump block. Things are not going well for Jacob Wilson at all.
Wilson just checking out all the cards that he's seen. This is almost a sign that there is going to be a game 3 here, and he wants to go in with as much information as possible. Already looking at his sideboard.
Haunted Dead bringing a spirit along, and it seems unlikely that Jacob will be able to get his way out of this.
Yep, scoops up his cards. We're going to see a game 3 here between Jacob Wilson and Timothy Nolan as we hit kind of the end stretch of what's going on in this our feature match area. There will be a time walk match happening relatively soon once we get to the end of this one. That one between Cassander and Kelly, so we will see that soon enough. But we're going to stick with the whole of this match first.
Meanwhile, to recap the standings at the beginning of the round, well, on top of the standings we had 4 players who all chose to take an intentional draw. There was Scott Lipp, Benjamin Stark, Seth Manfield and Eduardo Sedgalic. As long as things work out in their favor, they will have locked up a top 8 slot here at Grand Prix Sydney. We also saw Zen Takahashi take down Brian Bonduin, which means that Takahashi will also make it to the top 8. And, well, the winner between this match here, that we will get the game 3 of momentarily, will also very likely be able to make it to the top 8. So far, top 8 is stacked. Number 1 player in Seth Manfield, who just keeps on winning. I don't know how he does it, but it doesn't matter which continent he's on, which time zone. Our current world champion is having the season of his life. That's sad. Well, maybe
last season he was world champion.
Yeah, well, maybe next season is going to be better even. Never know. As well as Hall of Famer Ben Stark. It looks like all the pros who came out here to Sydney to participate in the Grand Prix the weekend before the Pro Tour are staking their dominance early on in this exciting format.
Yeah, exciting is the word for this format. I love the number of different ways there are of extracting value in this format. It feels to me like I was talking to Eduardo Sedgalic, who ID'd himself potentially into the top 8 here this last round, about the format, and he said the really cool thing about the Eldritch Moon drafts is you want to draft a fun deck, because chances are a fun deck is the kind of deck that wins. This is a synergy format, and when you've got all of those synergies going on, the things that really make Magic what you want it to be, that actually translates into wins. There are some formats where you just want to be aggressive, or you kind of want to ignore the really fun things, because sometimes you can get away with just playing the more straightforwardly powerful cards and have that work out for you. This is a format where, yes, as it turns out, the synergies are good enough that when you're doing something fun, chances are that's also going to work out as being a positive move. Things now kicking off in the deciding game between Jacob Wilson and Timothy Nolan. Both these players starting off with a swamp, but turn 2, that's where we see the first actual creature of the game, Falcon Wrath Reaver from Jacob Wilson. 2/2 for 2. Not an impressive looking card in and of itself, but very important in just making sure that the deck does curve out, because this red-black deck wants to be aggressive, and Devilthorn Fox coming on the other side of things. That one is going to meet a removal spell I would warrant from Jacob Wilson, and there we see it in a dead weight, clearing a path so that we can see a Vampire Attack and Insolent Neonate also joining the team for Jacob Wilson, who thus far is just sort of starting off with a good aggressive set of draws.
Exactly. And this is the format where you want to be attacking, because many of the pump spells that are available in the format obviously much better when you are the aggressor. So just early creatures, even if they may not look like much, a 2/2 or a 3/1 for 2 mana, they are much more important than you might think, just because they allow you to put those combat tricks to good use, as we have seen over the course of this weekend. Well, there's the Kindly Stranger once again. That said, Jacob Wilson may be able to attack into it.
Yeah, the menace on his Insolent Neonate, meaning it at least can attack in unimpeded. And Stensia Innkeeper here tapping down planes, meaning that Timothy Nolan effectively, at best, is going to be able to repeat his turn 3 in terms of mana development. Does have a land, but as a Gaia Reach Sanitarium means that he's not going to be able to cast any white spells this turn. And quite a long way off Delirium, so Kindly Stranger, for now at least, looks comparatively kind.
Also have some updates on other matches that we have not seen so far. Cherry Ramboa defeated Katsuhiro Mori. This means that Cherry Ramboa moves up to 39 points and almost certainly locks up a top 8 slot. Congratulations to him. Also, for all the Australian fans among you, Ben Sek, TBS, he defeated Willie Adel and moves up to 37 points. Also, probably locking up a top 8 for Ben Sek.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very close on these 37s, I think, 'cause we have a 39, a 39, a 39, 2 38s already. So that's 5. Then there's going to be at least one more 39. It's possible that one of these 37s may just miss, but it's these players have put themselves in as good a position as they can going into the end of the final round.
So meanwhile, well, Jacob Wilson is doing quite well this game. That Kindly Stranger is nowhere close to Delirium. Stensia Innkeeper as well as Insolent Neonate can keep attacking into it, while Timothy is not able to block them profitably, and that Mad Prophet is providing value every turn. Now it looks like Jacob was not willing to attack into a lot of open mana over there, because, well, sure, his 3/3 can attack into the 2/3 Kindly Stranger, but Timothy Nolan representing lots of tricks. There does look to be a Survive the Night in his hand, so looks like Jacob Wilson correctly identified what was going on with Timothy just passing the turn with lots of mana up, not willing to trade his Stensia Innkeeper for, well, a pump spell in Timothy Nolan's hand, or more specifically, not wanting to give Timothy Nolan an opportunity to use his untapped mana.
And just a quick update, we've been doing some of the maths in terms of the race for who's going to get the Grand Prix Player of the Year. The way it works out is pretty straightforward. If Seth Manfield wins the GP, then he goes to 56 points. That is exactly the number of points that Brian Braun-Duin will have. However, on tiebreakers, Seth Manfield would be the player to win the GP Player of the Year race, and that would be enough to get one extra at large spot, because of course Seth Manfield, already the world champion, he was the player that first locked up his invitation to the World Championships just a year ago at PAX as he lifted that trophy.
Yeah, gonna be a big sweat for BBD over the course of the next few hours. Meanwhile, Timothy is digging for answers, activating his Gaia Reach Sanitarium, which allows both players to draw and discard. Now, this might allow Timothy to set up Delirium for his Kindly Stranger. He already has a creature in the Fox, a land in Swamp. There was a Campaign of Vengeance also discarded, and now Survive the Night. So that this Delirium means that he is able to transform his Kindly Stranger, taking out the Vildenpack Outcast. Now, Timothy still not in a super good position, especially with that Certain Death. That is a huge swing.
Yeah, Certain Death, killing off the only creature that Timothy Nolan had in play, draining Timothy Nolan for 2, and meaning that there's some colossal swings coming through here. On just 2 life now, Nolan going to have to find something huge in order to stay in this game. He draws just another creature here. He's going to need to put a lot of creatures on the board if he's going to be able to survive this turn.
At least 3 blockers, or maybe some life gain cards. Desperate Sentry, that's 1. Still needs 2 more blockers in order to survive the next attack. Passing the turn, not where you want to be. What can Timothy have? Best is perhaps Blessed Alliance, but nope.
All he has is a handshake. Congratulations to Jacob Wilson there. He wins, and that means that we have more spots in our top 8 potentially locked up here. I'm always a bit cagey about saying that people have definitely made it because I don't want to be the one that looks a little bit silly when we announce results, but it seems very likely that that is a great result for Jacob Wilson. This top 8, if we stop now, it would already be stacked. There's a little bit more magic going on, and of course we will be able to bring you some of that because we have one more time walk match. But from me, Tim Willoughby, and from Frank Carson, we're going to say goodbye for now. We hope to see you again in the top 8 here at GP Sydney. You do not want to go away from this one.
Take on the darkness. Eldritch Moon pre-releases are happening right now on Magic Online. For more information, visit mtgo.com. Ready to take your game to the next level and start on the path to the Pro Tour? Rise to the challenge and test your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. To find an event near you, visit magic.wizards.com/pptq.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the booth with Brian David Marshall and Marshall Sutcliffe. Seats are filling up rapidly. They're going fast to the top 8 here at Grand Prix Sydney. Could very well be a seat on the line here in this match that we're going to watch right now. On your left, you see John Cassander. On the right, John Paul Kelly.
Yeah, they call him JP.
Yeah.
He's from Canberra. I got to talk to a couple of his friends while he was still playing over there. And yeah, I mean, what else do we need to say, right? I mean, these guys are playing for
and this is an
top 8.
Important role for John Paul Kelly because, you know, the hometown hero who defends the turf against the foreign invaders is an old school tradition at Grand Prix like this when you have these kind of star-studded top 8s.
Totally, yeah. And, you know, Jan, he's from the Czech Republic, so he really is from far away here, in fact, too, as invaders go.
Yeah, he's, I believe, a RPTQ winner.
That's correct. It's
for
his
the Pro Tour.
First Pro Tour is next weekend.
Well, this is a good warm-up for him.
Yeah, get used to the lights, get used to the pressure.
Yeah.
Neglected heirloom there for Jan. See if I can't find their deck list for us here.
So green-white for Jan. Yeah. It says 2-0 up on the top for Jan Cassander, but that's not accurate. And we can't edit it now because this is being played back. There is a Sigardian Priest. And nothing for John Paul Kelly. Pass the turn with 2 men out.
John Paul is missing forests here on his side of the table. He is straight up green and blue.
I like the cut of his jib.
Yeah, you know, he's got a Lashweed Lurker, a Wretched Griff, and a Mockery of Nature, which Mockery of Nature can do good work against that equipment, but he's a long way off. On the other side of the table, it is green-white, as you can see quite plainly there for Jan. He's got a Heron's Grace champion in his list.
Oh, nice.
Might have been one of his early picks that helped solidify him in this color combo.
So well, you mentioned
wow,
that
this is not going well at all for JP, by the way, BDM.
Yeah, not well at all.
No.
You mentioned, by the way, that you know, Jan was going to be playing his first Pro Tour. That is not true for John Paul Kelly, who, you know, had finished 10th at Pro Tour Austin in 2009, 40th at Pro Tour Philly 2001. So he's been playing around for a while.
Yeah, you know, I noticed he has
a
a shorter DCI number than his opponent here.
An interesting tale of the tape. Like, how long is your DCI number?
Yeah. So the Inquisitor there, of course, getting pumped, and he's also following up. Gosh, John Paul Kelly just can't find anything. He finds that island, but this is going to be a really quick game. If John Paul can't find something else, he's gonna die with 6 or 7 cards in his hand.
What's the play here from Cassander? Both these players playing very deliberately.
Nobody wants to be the one to make a mistake at this point.
Yeah, you know, if you've ever had your heartbeat kind of get a little rapid in the finals of an 8-4.
I have.
Yeah, well, imagine this.
Yeah, no, it's a different level. You do get used to it, but it takes a while.
All right, Guardian of Pilgrims. Equip. The byway courier.
It's like Chilling Grasp is going to cool things off a little bit here for John Paul Kelly.
Chilling Grasp taps those down. But John still gets get in for 2. He spread his love around there. He pumped up his Guardian Priest. But nothing for John Paul Kelly here. I mean, worth noting, I mean, Jan's also kind of scuffling for land here, but, you know, has still managed to make 5 plays with his 3 lands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, move the equipment. Neglected Heirloom. It's going to go over to the Guardian of Pilgrims. Gas Herald is going to enter the battlefield, tap down.
He refuses to die here, doesn't he?
I mean, he's got a pretty significant chunk of his life still going here.
He actually does, though. It still feels like it's going to be really difficult for him.
Those 2 creatures are going to. Oh well, all 3 creatures are going to untap next turn. All right, tap the Herald with the Priest.
How about a Wretched Griff to just gobble it up? And he still can't find the lands. Unbelievable. And you know what JP was doing was counting his hand there to see if he needed to discard. That's the situation he's in. As it turns out, he didn't, but it's not a lot of comfort there. Oh, man. JP Kelly here just, he has to be running the not like this, you know, through his head at this point.
Wretched Griff, not a human, to the surprise of no one.
It's going to drop JP down to 4 life here.
Yeah. Bash in. Wait, or more.
Oh, but wait, there's more. And how about that?
Yeah.
Borrowed Grace means game time. He's going to take an additional 6, putting him to -2, and that's it.
Scoop it up for John Paul Kelly. Jan Cassander going to his first Pro Tour next week. 1 game to the good towards qualifying for another one. Well, he's already, So remember, even if they don't make the top 8, if you get that 12-13-2 record.
Does it matter the size of the GP for that?
Oh, it might.
We're so used to it exceeding that every single time. Well, there is a big crowd of people, by the way, watching the the feature match area here in Australia.
Jan Cassander and John Paul Kelly to the main stage. Jan Cassander and John Paul Kelly to the main stage.
All right. So Jan Cassander leads off with a Neglected Heirloom. You see green for John Paul Kelly this game. Steadfast Cathar. Fork in the road. So he's making sure he gets all his mana this game.
Yeah, this is certainly going to help with that, but it is interesting to note just John Paul really needs to try to survive to the mid to late game where his deck looks like it's a bit more powerful than what Jan has going on, and he's just got to be careful not to take too much damage in the early stages while he tries to set up his mana and do this whole fork in the road nonsense. It's not bad. I mean, look, realistically, the most damage he takes next turn is 3. It's not the end of the world.
And it's just going to be 2.
Mm-hmm.
Jan has other plans for his mana this turn. Oh, he doesn't have a 3rd land.
Oh, no.
And he plays a Sigardian Priest.
Wow. Are players going to trade non-mana turns or games here. See if John Paul can capitalize. That is one of the big differences between the two decks is that Jan's deck is very, very good at capitalizing on stumbles from the opponent. We saw that in the first game, but John Paul's deck a little slower. Might give you a little more time to come back out of it.
All right, 4 mana for John Paul Kelly and no play. And Steadfast Cathar picks up the heirloom, rumbles in, and Jan is able to preserve the mana to use for his Guardian Priest.
What is going on with JP here? He plays Fork in the Road and then nothing. How is that possible?
Handful of emerge cards. I think that's kind of a possible draw you could get in this format.
It just feels like he wouldn't have kept that, you know?
Oh,
maybe he's got like a Stormrider Spirit.
He does have a
yeah,
Stormrider
it's a little
Spirit.
awkward because the it doesn't actually block cleanly on the attacker there.
Yeah, and he just flashed it in at the end of
Good.
Jan's turn.
Well, that changes everything.
It gets tapped. Okay. See an ingenious Scob.
Yeah, he's got 3 mana available as well. This is a little bit precarious for Jan about how he wants to proceed. He can keep the aggression going by actively tapping down the blockers, but it's not going to be able to do that next turn as there's now 2 blockers available for John Paul Kelly. And Jan's mana situation, he's done a good job of keeping on top of it. He's got John down to 12, and he could even bring him down to 9 here if he wants to use his tapper, but this is really going to catch up to him if he misses another land drop.
He attacks. Ingenious Scob gets in the way. Pumps it. Pumps it.
Gives it the requisite 4 power to trade, and it does.
Yep. And Guardian Priest picks up.
And
the
it looks like we're going to
neglected
be discarding
Oh,
here
boy.
for Jan as well. So no land drop for him this turn.
And John Paul Kelly still can't turn the corner here, though,
Nope.
because
Nope,
his
he sure
Stormrider
can't.
Spirit's just going to get tapped.
Doesn't need much. Another creature would do quite nicely. A big one would be awesome.
It looks like he's got an Altered Ego in hand.
If that would work. He's also got a Mockery of Nature in hand, which he can use to take down the heirloom there. But yeah, I like this play a lot. Boom.
Copy comes into play with 3 counters.
Just make another
Yeah, so
Stormrider
now
Spirit.
It's a 6/6.
6/6 flying. And then he can Mockery of Nature coming up shortly as well. Given that he's flooded out a bit, he may be able to just hard cast it. The tapper's been pretty annoying for him.
We haven't seen Mockery of Nature kill anything.
No, we've seen it hit the battlefield
Oh,
a few
yeah,
times
few
and just
times.
never actually kill anything.
Dawn Griffin. Jan has to tap out. Can't even keep his mana up for the Guardian Priest. And that's going to be a problem he's going to face moving
For the rest of the
forward
game.
For the game, yeah. He never gets
As he
ahead
takes
of his mana
9.
needs.
Oh,
If he has a 4-drop next turn and he draws a land, he really needs to advance his board. In comes the 6 power flyer. And the
he did
Stormrider
not
Spirit,
attack with a Stormrider Spirit. I'm
Stormrider
actually
Spirit stays home.
quite surprised by that. I mean, it does block the Dawn Griff, but it also attacks right through it quite nicely. And attacking for 9 damage in the air. That's a very quick clock. Much quicker than the one that Jan can put forth, at least currently.
I'm just going to, looks like, pass the turn here.
He may have said, go to combat, and John said, yeah. Do your thing.
Yeah, there we go. Oh,
He's going to make a couple of spirits
yeah.
here.
Spectral Reserves makes 2 flyers, gains 2 life, relevantly.
All right, so back-to-back lands for Jan, including a forest, means that he's got a chance here. It's getting interesting now.
Is that a foul emissary?
It was.
Here we go.
Uh-oh, is he going to make a mockery of that
Oh, yeah.
Heirloom.
Looks at his cards. Looks like he's going to get a...
Maybe a Drowneyard Explorer or
Yeah,
something.
I think so. Yep.
Fair enough.
But I think you're right. I think we're gonna cast the. Just knock off that equipment here. All right. First, we're gonna get in for 6. Still doesn't want to attack with the Storm Rider Spirit. Even though doing so now would put him on, well, not quite at turn clock, because opponent still has blockers.
Yeah, well, but the clock is still real. You
Yeah.
know, and forcing your opponent to block is a pretty big deal.
So there goes the neglected heirloom.
Yeah. Well, we finally saw it, BDM.
Sooner or later, it had to happen.
That is nasty. I mean, look, the neglected heirloom wasn't doing a ton this game, but, like, ouch.
5th land for John. So now he's going to be able to keep the alter ego down. He shouldn't need 5 mana for anything at this point.
Yeah, we'll see.
GP Sydney 2016.
Spectral Reserves on the
Another
other
Spectral
side.
Reserves.
Okay.
It's a nice borrowed gray stack.
First place with 39 points.
Yeah, he has it too.
Second place with
So this is
39
getting
points,
pretty interesting
Zen
now.
Takahashi.
John Paul really does need to slam the door on this game as quickly as he can, and the Drowneyard Explorers is not going to help him get there that quickly.
In fourth place,
Wow.
39
And John-
Jan has
can't-
really fought back. Now all of a sudden Borrowed Grace looks really scary from John Paul's perspective.
Tap the 6. He can't.
In fifth place with
And
39
now,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Get
willing
in
to
on the
trade
ground.
off these for flyers, especially just because those flyers are so scary with, you know, mass pump spells of certain
38
types.
points, Ben Stark.
So we'll see how this goes.
Seventh place with 38 points, Seth Manfield. And in
All right.
eighth place, 37
So how do you
points,
block here if you're Jan?
Well, it depends on what's in his hand, and I can't see it. If he has one of those, you know, mass pump spells, he's going to be able to. He really wants to maintain as many creatures as possible. If he does not, he may need to start trading them off.
So I can give you a little information about our top 8.
Yeah,
Or our top 7, I can tell you. And if you don't want to know the
They
8th
know.
person,
They heard it.
yeah.
Yeah, you tell him though.
We have Scott Lipp, Zen Takahashi, Santiago DiPaolo. In 5th place, Terry Ramboa. 6th place, Ben Stark. 7th place, Seth Manfield.
Wow.
And 8th place, Ben Sack. And then the winner of this match
Okay.
is going to take the 4th seed.
Okay. That's great. I love this. You can just feel the pressure down there too, huh? You know, hands on head and like tense. You know, there's not a lot of goofing around at the moment.
So a spirit token.
Seth Manfield's in the
jumps.
top 8.
Yeah,
BBD is not, by the way. So just
I
as
know.
by way of reminder on that, the only way in which BBD is not your GP Player of the Year is if Seth wins the Grand Prix.
And by the way, I
outright.
heard someone was talking about Seth. They're like, Seth, you're still live to win Grand Prix Player of the Year. And he's like, I don't want to be live. He's like, I don't want to be live. I just want to. I'd like to win the Grand Prix.
I mean, he wants a
Obviously,
trophy.
I want the trophy, but I don't want to take this spot from BBD.
Well, he is in position to do so, though he is only one of 8 awesome players in our top 8.
And there's a lot of weird. It's not like he can just also like concede in the finals and get BBD into Worlds, because it might cost one of his teammates. And at large, like if he wins, it might open up a spot for one of his teammates to get to Worlds.
Well, also there's Player of the Year considerations.
Absolutely.
Not GP, but straight up Player
Yeah.
of the Year. You know, Owens, I think, something like
Owen's
11
due for his
points back.
annual Pro Tour top
Hey,
8. Yeah,
that's
you know.
all it takes, you know. This is going to be a really interesting top 8. Not only do we have a stacked top 8, I mean, Scott Lipp, right? We see him out at the GPs all the time. Zen Takahashi, he's from New Zealand, and he's going to be on the New Zealand national team.
Yeah, I heard that's a crazy story. I mean, it sounds like Jason Chung might be the new Frank Karsten, crazy mad scientist dude.
A little bit, yeah. Ben Stark, one of the best limited players ever, Seth, that we mentioned, and Ben Sek, hometown local hero here. It's an insane top 8, and one of these two gentlemen as well. Again, Jan comes from the Czech Republic. John Paul is from Canberra, which is about 3 hours drive here from Sydney, where we're at right now. So another hometowner, you know, roughly speaking, for John Paul, if he's the one who gets in.
All right, tap your 6.
Wow,
6.
I am so impressed how Jan has fought his way back into this game.
All right.
JP took a relatively conservative line earlier, has not wanted to trade or attack with that Storm Rider Spirit.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, which is fine. I mean, he took his line, but now it did give Jan a little bit of extra time to try to fight back in it, even if it did reduce his risk a bit. So
Mockery of Nature bashing in here.
yeah, that is a big problem for Jan.
He's not willing to put the Solitary Hunter at risk.
That's a drag under.
Oh boy,
That's
drag under
really
your
good.
Guardian Priest.
Yeah, that just takes it out of the cycle for so long. He's now going to have to replay it. It won't be able to tap anything down. So he gets some breathing room from that tapper now. We have sped up the video a little bit for those of you noticing. Not a lot. We like to keep it where you can still follow the action. We can still commentate it.
Semi-legible.
I wish that described my handwriting, unfortunately. I'm one step below that.
Stern Constable for Jan Cassander. And doesn't replay his
Oh, so you know what he's representing here? It's kind of interesting. I don't think his opponent is going to really be aware of this, but you know, we talked about the Heron's Grace champion.
You see what just happened here?
No.
Scour the laboratory.
Oh, my
Choose 3
favorite.
cards.
Wow, that should do it. I mean, I don't know what he drew with it, but
I mean,
if
he
he
drew 3
can't-
cards. That's
if
what he drew.
yeah, if he can't leverage
Doesn't
this,
matter what they are.
then what are you doing? But this is really interesting from John Paul's side. He's obviously going to have noticed that Jan did not play anything. He could be thinking about cards like Silver Strike. He, you know, I don't think he would think of it first thing, but Heron's Grace Champion is a card that Jan has and could be important here.
All right, so Solitary Hunter is going to go back on top of the library for Jan. From the Lashweed Lurker that emerged from the form of the Drowned Yard Explorers.
And welcome to the fold here as well.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
What a
Welcome to the fold, your
huge turn
flyer.
for John Paul. In.
All right, here it comes.
That Storm Rider Spirit is free.
Finally. Telling you, Coach.
He's got to have something.
I got it.
Jan has to have something.
Yeah, he
here.
could have played his.
He could have played a tapper, and
could have
not playing
replayed
it's a
his
big
Sigurdsson
deal.
Of course, he's down 2 permanents on the board that he may have been counting on.
Good point. Yeah.
But
It is a Heron's Grace champion.
Oh, and it gets convoluted after all.
Oh, it turns out when you draw 3 extra cards, you have a lot to do with those cards. I hesitate to say it, but that ought to do it.
And that's chump on the spirit with the spirit tokens.
Take 6.
Yeah, fall to 3. Do you have some
Game
sort of
3,
wrath
everybody.
here?
The answer to that question is no.
Yeah.
Not in this one.
It's not going to fold here. He's thinking it through. Finally, okay, yes, he is. He's like, yep, I've thought it through. There's nothing I can do. Game 3.
Obviously a game 3. Why wouldn't it? This is to determine our last seat in the top 8.
And the person who wins this game will be joining Ben Sack, Seth Manfield, Ben Stark, Terry Ramboa, Santiago DePauli, Zen Takahashi, and Scott Lipp. Pretty impressive top 8.
Stacked top 8.
Okay, there's a byway courier for Jan Cassander. And it gets returned to Jan's hand, and Jean-Paul Kelly draws a card with Drag Under. Just like a man
I
of war,
heart Drag Under.
without the man. Okay, Spectral Reserves. Gain 2 life, make 2 spirit tokens. Exultant Cultist. Great fodder for all the emerge cards in John Paul Kelly's deck. When it dies, you get to draw a card.
Yeah, feed it to an Eldrazi.
Yeah, I don't know what it's so happy about. I guess it's a cultist.
Misguided, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. Get in with Neglected Heirloom on one of the spirits.
And I'll tell you what, that could have been a lot scarier of a turn from John Paul's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And then an Ovenwald Captive.
Yeah, not a big deal. Down the line that could be a problem, but John Paul is more worried about taking a bunch of damage now.
He's not too far from flipping that.
Yeah, it's down the line, but I mean, right now he's okay.
Okay, there's an Ingenious Scob.
Still needs to find another land, and then he won't be being attacked by the captive even if it does transform. It becomes a 4/6.
Okay, get in the air.
Jason Scrutiny.
Jason Scrutiny cycles, essentially. He just says,
Well,
I'll fog that creature,
Yeah.
and then I'll get to draw a card
yeah,
later
prevent
on.
2, draw a card, kind of. Now you do what you got to do.
Sanctifier Souls.
Yeah. Card's been all right.
Yeah.
I'm not blown away by it, but it's a good card.
You know, it's just a good mid to late game card.
Agreed.
See a little bit of the body language of the players, just heads kind of lolling around, holding them up with their hands. Go, says John Paul Kelly with 6 mana.
Huh. A clue available, maybe a Stormrider Spirit, maybe counter
Possibly planning on
spells.
scouring the laboratory.
I like that
I'm
plan.
sorry.
I like that plan. I'm jealous. I'll admit it.
Okay, there's a Dawn Griff.
Okay.
There's
Jeez.
a Byway Courier.
2 triggers on the Sanctifier. It's 5 power now. Thing's huge.
I could have, nope. Lets him go to his attack step. Doesn't have anything to tap it with.
Really interesting. He did not attack with his flyers. He gave John Paul credit for the Stormrider Spirit.
Oh, yeah.
here. And John Paul says, I'm just going to block with my cultist then. And if he doesn't have it, it's such a blowout.
Oh, he does have Scout of the Laboratory.
Wow. So that was 4 damage that Jan just did not get in for to play around Stormrider Spirit.
and
And,
then he
hilariously, he drew it
uh,
with that
yeah,
card, with Scour.
Of course he did.
It's hard to blame Jan. He doesn't want to throw away his Dawn Griff there. But wow, that did not work out well for him. Because that John just needs time. That's all he needs here. We saw him in the previous game get a bunch of time and really dominate the late game. There's a land for Jan. That does mean he has enough mana to transform the Ulvenwald Captive, though he'll have to tap it to do so. So no attack from it this turn if that's the way he decides to go. A little bit awkward, too. He'd love to have the neglected heirloom on it when he does decide to transform it so that he can transform the heirloom as well. Uh-oh.
I think I know what's going on here.
Wow. So John did not play his Storm Rider Spirit. He just blocked
Interesting.
with the Primal Druid as a chump block and a trade on the ground with the Ingenious Scob. Okay.
Oh, interesting. I assumed that there was going to be a Bard Grace there.
That's interesting. I wonder if John also assumed that and left up Convolute.
Oh, interesting. Sure.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3. He could pay for it, so that would not work anyway.
Sacrifice
It would
clue.
tap him out, though.
Play another Spectral Reserves. Oh, wait. That might get convoluted.
He at least told him to wait so that he's representing it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does have Convolute, yeah. Okay.
Moves the neglected heirloom over to the Overwhelmed Captive. Tons of mana, tons of cards in hand. This should be good for John Paul Kelly.
That whole board state thing eludes him.
See, we're more of a board territory.
Yeah.
We're not actually.
Yeah, so he passes back. Jan would love to see a forest here.
Okay.
No. So interestingly, John is actually going to force the issue. He says if you want to transform your Ovenwall Captive, you are going to do it right now. And he does. And this is a nice setup
And that
from John
also
Paul.
transforms the neglected heirloom.
That's
as well.
right. But the cool part about that play from John is that he now gets to leave up his Storm Rider Spirit, which once again Jan is going to respect, and he gets to just play it out here.
Oh, look
Ooh,
at this.
Tireless Tracker. Wow.
Where were you 7 turns ago, buddy?
Yeah. Well, he's going to find a land now. Fork in the road with 3 cards in his hand. Is this the game turning around for John Paul Kelly?
Boy, it sure looks like
He's
it.
still behind. He's at 12. But anybody who's played with or against a Tireless Tracker knows that it's one of the best rares and shadows ever Innistrad, and this is where it really shines. Starts chaining together clues, drawing cards, and getting huge.
So Jan's creatures didn't untap this turn,
Yeah,
but the transformed heirloom goes over to Dawngrif, and a Nebelgast Herald taps that. But
John's really punishing the equipment side of things from Jan, but it does feel like it's only a matter of time before Jan gets to actually start attacking with the Ashmouth bladed up creature, whatever it happens to be.
All right, there's Stoic Builder. Go get a land, play a
Value.
land, get a clue. Tap Altered Ego. I don't. Oh, it copies of Storm Rider Spirit again. So now we have a 7/7 flyer.
Okay. Guess that's the best he could do. Just make a big flyer. Yeah, it looks like it.
You could copy a Tireless Tracker.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just worried about getting smashed
Yeah.
with the Ashmouth blade and correctly. I shouldn't make light of it. I mean, that is a 7/7 flyer.
Yeah. Another Spectral Reserve.
Uh-oh. That's 3 mana. He doesn't have anything to
Iron
get
Clear
back
Slayer
with
doesn't
it
get
with his
anything
Slayer.
back.
It does feel like he's setting up for a
Sack a
big
clue.
turn, though, doesn't it?
Play a land, get a clue. John Paul's only at 12. All right, in with the 7 power flyer.
Wow.
Jan takes it, goes to
He's going to
16.
play a Wretched Griff here?
Yeah.
Sacrifice the poor Stoic Builder.
Wow.
What did he ever do to you?
Plays a Giant Yard Explorers, gets another clue.
Wow, so he is firing on all cylinders here. This is going to be very difficult for Jan to beat.
I mean, unless he draws Borrowed Grace.
Yes. He's perfectly set up for that with the 4 flying spirits he's got there.
Yeah, plus the Dawngrif. He can start making.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his one Oh, I'm going to guess.
Oh, this is really bad news for John Paul Kelly. This is exactly what he didn't want to see. He has all the pieces in place, and his opponent just shipped the entire team in on him.
He's already used his Convolute this game.
He is going to block as many things as he can.
It's like, okay, those are my blocks. Was that a convolute check?
It was. It's the Heron's Grace champion.
Oh.
Oh, man. So everything is getting +1/+1 in lifelink now.
Oh, jeez.
Does he survive this? I believe not. 2, 5, 6. I think it's 14. Oh, that had chump blocked. Sorry.
Yeah.
That means that 6 of that goes away, so it's not. Okay.
Wow.
So
but
John just
wipes
loses
out-
his entire board
wipes out
outside of
John's
the
team.
altered ego.
John Cassander's going to gain considerable amount of life here. Goes up to 27. Extends the hand. Jan Cassander wins heading into his first Pro Tour.